Welcome, Fedi Friends, to episode 19 of Fireside Fedi. I'm your host, Ozoned. Fireside Fedi is a show about folks within the Fediverse. If you're seeing this, you are a part of the Fediverse. With me today is Kevin Blades, professional puppet builder, amateur performer, and maker of fun media stuff. Kevin also has a very sharp last name. Kevin?
You had to get that one in. I mean,
yes,
geez.
Of course. You've never heard that, I'm sure. Kevin, thank you so much for joining me. And how would you like to be addressed? Mr. Blades, man with the coolest last name in the world.
It's not even a stage name or anything. I used to, decades ago, I was in a band. I've been in a few bands, and everybody assumed that it was a stage name. No, I'm sorry. It's just my name. It's really, there's nothing more interesting about it than that. It's just my name. Kevin is fine. My pronouns are he, him. And thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled to be here.
And I have to say, though, you did steal my first question, which is it a stage name? Because it is such a good last name. Like I've known someone named Gunn. And at the same last name is Gunn, and then at the same job, there was another one that was Steele. And I was always telling them they needed to start an 80s action TV show, Gunn and Steele.
Steele, easy.
And yeah, and now they can add Blades to it as well. Like
I'm the nemesis. I'm the dark nemesis.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, that's awesome name, even if it's not a stage name. That is so good.
I lucked into it, like most things.
Yeah. Hey, you just got to go with the flow, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So you stream on Owncast, you stream on PeerTube, and you stream, normally you're building puppets or you're streaming with your puppet playing stuff. So let's just jump into it. How did you get into puppet building? How did you get to where you're at today? Did you just you live next to Jim Henson and he's like, you're going to have to be a puppet builder? And yes, sir.
I'm sorry, but I have to pass this on to somebody,
Yeah,
no.
Exactly.
I wish, but no. How do you want the short version or the long version? Because we can go. I mean,
hey, as long as the long version doesn't go over an hour.
This is a tale as old as time. So, okay. Growing up as a kid in the late 70s, early 80s, I was at the right time and place, of course, for the Muppets to really be a huge thing, right?
Love the Muppet Show.
That was like my main cultural touchstone. There was the Muppets and Star Wars. That was my entire life, right?
Yes.
Now, of course, then, one grows up and one becomes a teenager and suddenly, punk music and dating became far more interesting than puppets. So I kind of left that aside.
Wait.
Go many, many years later.
Well, wait. Are you saying that you didn't make puppets and take them on dates with you? I thought women loved magic and puppetry.
If that would have been the case, I probably would have got married a whole lot earlier than I did. But
yeah,
I never found the right one until I found the one who loved puppets as much as I did. However,
awesome. Yeah.
So and it was the kind of thing. It's like I never even considered it as it was like a kid's hobby. Now I always had it in the back of my head as like a thing that I really loved, but of course, when you're 16 years old, you're like, well, that was the thing I did when I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
Now, so many, many years later, I got interested in tech. I got into computers. I ended up having a career in front end web development.
Sorry.
So this is where the story has an interesting arc because I was working in a crappy internet startup. Sherman set the Wayback Machine for about late 2016, 2017, around there.
Okay, not too long ago.
So it's before COVID, and so everything before COVID is just a giant amorphous blob anyway, right? So
have we gotten that far out of COVID that there's a pre-COVID and post-COVID?
I mean, it's the before times, right? It might as well be fucking Narnia, right? Because there's nothing. It's just a blur. It's just all okay. There's then and now, and that's it. That's all there is. What is time? So,
Yeah.
anyway, I was working as a front-end web developer at a crappy little internet startup that was as straight up as toxic and abusive a workplace as you can imagine.
Good.
And of course, I hated it,
Yeah.
but I had to pay the rent somehow, and this was my job. And this is
Mhm.
the trap, right? It was like when you're in a terrible place, but you have to pay the rent, and your job barely covers that. You
Yeah.
don't have the time to go and try and find something else because it's just you're in that cycle, right? And then I inherited a little bit of money, not a lot, and it's all gone. However, what that allowed me to do was kind of, well, A, walk away from the terrible job, which was
Good.
amazing and like, dream come true, right?
Yeah.
But it also gave me a little bit of time that I could just sort of go, okay, what do I want to do next? What
Hmm.
is the thing now? And I hadn't really figured anything out. And then we were on a weekend trip. My wife and myself and our friends were on a weekend trip to New York City, one of my favorite places in the world. I should probably mention I live in Canada. I live in Toronto.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't know if you were aware of that, but yeah,
No,
this is
I
coming
didn't.
to you live from Toronto. Um, but I've been to New York City a whole bunch of times. Absolutely love it. One of my favorite places in the world, possibly second only to New Orleans. But um we were taking our friends around who hadn't really experienced New York City before, and my wife
Okay.
and I have both been in New York City a whole bunch, and we absolutely love it. So we were sort of like being the tour guides and showing them around. And one of the places that we had planned to go to was the Museum of the Moving Image in Queens. I had never been to Queens, so this was our first time in Queens.
Okay.
And an amazing museum. If you ever could
Never heard of
get
it.
to Queens, go to the Museum of the Moving Image. It is fantastic. They cover like film history and TV history
Oh,
and
okay.
now video game history. In fact, when we were there, they had the history of esports, including, of course, the early history of video games. And so my friend Jamie
Oh.
and I, who are both video game nerds, we walk into this place and there's like an original arcade Pong machine in working condition. They had like the machines that do the oscilloscope, like the early
Yeah.
game. Yeah, like all of that stuff. They just had there and working and you could use them. It was like, what is happening? So the reason that we wanted to go to the Museum of the Moving Image was because this is one of the few museums in the world that has a permanent Jim Henson exhibit. And Jamie and I are both fans of the Muppets. So we're like, okay, we got to go see this. So we go to the Jim Henson exhibit. It's of course magical and enchanting and wonderful, as you would
Hmm.
expect. Now, in this exhibit, they have, or at least they had, I haven't been there in a long time, but they had a little sort of kiosk where they had these little practice puppets, and they had a thing that was set up that would kind of mimic how they actually shoot the Muppets. So they had a camera and a monitor, and you could put the puppets on and
What?
practice, kind of show and see for real how they do it, right? Because it's not a super intuitive thing.
Yes.
For one thing, like the monitor is left to right, so you have to learn to think left to right and all that kind of thing. So people don't
Yeah.
quite understand what goes into making something like the Muppets. So this was an example of this is how they do it. And I at that point I hadn't put on a puppet in like decades, literally. And so Jamie tried on the puppet and he's sort of doing a little thing. He's trying to figure it out. And of course, I've got all these old instincts, right? So Jamie's partner goes, well, here, why don't you show us? And I'm like, oh, no. And she finally convinced me.
He's so
So I put
humble.
on this puppet, and it's like the doors of perception open, right? It's just like all of these ancient neurons suddenly fired back into life, and all of the old instincts came back. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh boy, it's back. Like literally 30 years of dormancy just came to life all of a sudden. And I'm like, oh crap, this is what I want to do. How does one do this? So
Yeah.
at the time, I had no idea, of course. And I had been out of it for so long that, I had no idea what the current state of puppetry was in the world. Like I just had no idea. Um, turns out it's okay actually. Things are okay. It's still a small subculture, as it were, but there's people in it, and there's activity, and there's people who work professionally and all that kind of thing. So, but I didn't know this at the time, of course. So, what I was trying to do, I told you it was a long story.
No, you're good. No, please.
We're
This is
actually kind of
fascinating. I
getting
love
there.
it.
This is the abridged version. So, one of the things that we were doing at the time was my friend Jamie and Andrew and myself were all working on an early internet cartoon. I wanted to learn 2D animation. This is just who I am. I just try. I don't know how to do this. I'm going to learn. So I wanted to learn 2D animation, and we had all these ideas for this cartoon that we wanted to do. So I'm like, I'll try it. And now that I've got this time to learn stuff, let's just do that. So we started a cartoon that at the time was called Operation Pug. Now, there's a whole in-universe reason for that. It stands for Procedural Universe Generator. It also coincidentally happens to stand for Pickup Group, as I'm sure you know.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it all tied into the themes of what the cartoon was. But that was Operation Pug, and we had also started a podcast that goes along with it at the time. So, and yeah, you can still find it on YouTube somehow, somewhere.
I've never heard of YouTube. Sorry,
you do not want to go Googling Operation Pug. This is how good I am at marketing. Okay. We called our thing Operation Pug, and the only thing you get when you Google Operation Pug is veterinary surgery. Okay, so I advise you, don't do that.
No, I found your podcast.
Did you? Okay. Wow. I can't believe it.
Operation Pug, game podcast, online cartoon and commentary and video games.
There you go. Yeah. Wow. I don't know where that is hosted anymore, or even if it is hosted. I don't think that's alive anymore. I think you're seeing a zombie ghost in the internet. Anyway, so that's the old podcast, and we had this going for a little while. And then the New York trip happened, and suddenly puppets became the thing in my head. And so I started trying to come up with an idea of what can I do with puppets, right? Yeah. At the time, building puppets wasn't even on the radar. It wasn't even a thing. I wanted to perform. I wanted to write stuff and perform the characters. And so I came up with this idea for this show called The Oracle, which is still running. We just released a relatively new episode a few weeks ago. And originally that was then part of Operation Pug, because I did what I always do, and I just shoved it under the umbrella of like whatever the thing that I'm trying to do on the internet, that becomes the kind of I just try and lump everything I'm interested in one place. And so Operation Pug had a kind of offshoot that was The Oracle. And it should be, so all the Oracle stuff is still on the Operation Puppet YouTube and PeerTube channel.
The fun thing is, when I look up Oracle, because I'm an IT nerd, it gives me Oracle the database, and I'm like, oh well, I'll put Puppet there, and Puppet is a configuration management platform, so it's like managing your Oracle with Puppet. And I'm like, I don't know if I can find this.
My Google luck continues because. So yeah, anyway, I started doing the Oracle. Now, like I said at the time, building puppets wasn't even a thing that I thought that I would be able to do, or I had no idea. So I had to like figure out, where am I going to get the puppets? And I started trying to write characters that I knew I could get puppets for. So I jumped on Etsy. I started looking around. I found some builders. I got some puppets, and I started the show. And I found that I really enjoyed it. And at some point, I came across the YouTube channel of noted and sadly recently passed away puppet builder Adam Krutinger, who is Puppet Nerd on YouTube. And he is like the great guru of online puppet building. Everybody who had learned their craft online has learned from Adam Krutinger. He is like the, patient zero for all that stuff. And because of that, I started having ideas for characters that I wanted to make for this show that would be really expensive to get done by another builder. So I started thinking, I wonder if I can do this. and I just started trying, and turned out that like, actually, yeah, I'd never even used a sewing machine before I started doing this. I mean, this was all brand new stuff, but thanks to Adam Krutinger's channel,
That's
I
great.
found some new skills. So then I started building puppets, and they were good enough. And I got to a stage that I thought, you know what? I have puppets from other builders. I know what the build quality is like. I can do this. So that ended up becoming my own business, Operation Puppet, which is the continuation from Operation Pug. That's why the name is Operation Puppet, is because it's continued on from Operation Pug.
Okay.
So there's the deep lore of that. And that's kind of where we are now. So Operation Pug just kind of faded into obscurity, and Operation Puppet took over being the thing. And then after starting my own business, I started as an Etsy business, and now I've got my own direct shop. Um, it just kind of took off. I mean, took off is relative, of course, because it's still a
Yeah.
relatively small, industry. It's very much a cottage industry, and I work out of my house. But um, it's enough that I'm like, I've made this a thing now, and I've been doing it full time for about almost 6 years at this point.
Oh wow! Congrats.
And so thank you. But that's the backstory of how I fell into puppet building as a career. It was just an accident. It was just like, it was a thing. I had the time and the resources, and that's kind of where all the inheritance went. Was I ended up getting, materials and equipment and machines and all of the stuff that I needed to start this thing.
Well, but that's, I mean, that's when someone, you said inheritance, so someone left you money, right? And
Yeah.
that's, they want you to build a better life, and that's what you've done for yourself, and that's amazing. The It's really interesting because growing up, we there's certain things we just love. Kids love cartoons, we love puppets, Muppets, and there comes a point in your life where you're like, nah, that's a kid stuff, and you grow
Yep.
up. But like again, we were talking about Jim Henson, who is I don't know in the puppet community. I'm assuming he's as big of a deal to the puppet community as he's not. The
Oh yeah.
Muppets, right? Sesame Street. I mean, hell, I love Farscape. Farscape was a Jim Henson company thing. Poor,
Yep.
rest in peace. Jim wasn't alive for that, but like we've lost that tangibility, and I'm so happy that there are people that have continued on. But how outside of that kind of flash in the pan in your brain, that's like, this is what I'm
Yeah.
going to do. Is that what you kind of lived with? Is like, yeah, that's for kid stuff, I'm moving on from that? Or was it always kind of prevalent, and it's like you hear your parents' voices in your head saying, stop playing with toys?
A bit, yeah. Well, my parents were very hands off, thankfully. So
Okay.
they never, like, I kind of got to sort of figure out what I wanted to do and was interested in, and even though it was generally a constant disappointment, I just never paid attention, and they didn't pay that much attention to me as well. So it was just
All
like,
right.
what? It's fine. We're a very waspy family, right? Very like, just okay, yeah. We have the children, so it was like that. Um, but yeah, it never even occurred to me that this was a viable thing, right? Like as an
Yeah.
adult, it just seemed like, now, admittedly, I was interested in doing, I even was building puppets as a kid, a little bit later than most kids usually do. I was about 13 or 14 by the time I kind of went, I know this is done. This is what I used to do as a kid. But it was always very much in the back of my mind as a thing that I loved. And it almost like, in a sense, it feels like a thing that we've lost. But
Yes. Yes.
in another way, we really haven't. And there's a case in point where we see, like, the industry became very much driven by CG and stuff like that. And let me just front load this by saying I'm not an anti CG guy. I love good CG is good.
It has its place, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's another tool in the toolbox, right? This is
Right.
in
Right.
filmmaking. This is just another way to go.
Right.
And I think the important thing that people don't quite grasp with puppetry in general is that it is just another form of character animation, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's many different forms of character animation. Puppetry is just one of them. But puppetry has something unique that other forms of character animation don't have, and that is that the puppet, even if you're looking at it, in a post-production thing, the puppet shares our physical space. That is literally like the definition of what
Yes.
a puppet is, right?
Yes. Well, no, and that's what I was thinking is even with acting, right? Having
Yep.
something, anything that you can kind of bounce your physical sight off of, or reach out and touch. There's a tangibility that we've lost with CG that CG can never make up. Like
Yep.
now you see Hollywood sets that are just complete green screens,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sad. Like and that's one of the reasons I loved Farscape so much was it's there. Like they created such incredibly amazing puppetry things
Yep.
that
And actors will tell you too, like actors would rather work with a physical character than a green screen any day. And I mean, there's all the famous footage of Ian McKellen breaking down on set
yeah,
because he's like, I
yeah,
can't do
that's
this. This is ridiculous. Actors need other actors, right? And
yeah.
that's what puppetry is. You're just acting. You're just acting in another manner, but it's still acting. You're still embodying a character. And this is one of the reasons why we were talking before about the difference between ventriloquism
Mm-hmm.
and puppetry. And it's like a competent puppeteer can bring a character to life, and it doesn't matter that it's a puppet. It's still a living character. And this is the difference. This is what makes it special, is because, like, we talk about Kermit like Kermit is a person, right? Well,
Wait,
obviously
Kermit.
Kermit's not a person.
Oh,
I
what?
know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to break it to you. But here's the thing, like go and watch like old interviews with Jim Henson on like the
Yeah,
Tonight Show and stuff like that.
yeah,
He's not a ventriloquist. He's clearly there operating the puppet. He's not,
right.
he's moving his lips. You can see the sleeve. It doesn't, but the thing is, it doesn't matter because
Nope.
Kermit's just alive and there. And this is what
Yeah,
puppetry does that other forms of character animation don't do. It bypasses in our brains a level of suspension of disbelief. We don't need to suspend our disbelief. It's there. We know it's
yeah,
there. We can see it. It's right there.
yeah,
So we don't have to worry that it's not realistic because it doesn't have to be realistic. It's there. We don't have to believe in it. It exists. So
yeah.
that's the difference, right? That's
No,
why puppetry is unique in this whole thing.
and it really seems like back again to the Muppets. For those that don't know, the Muppets was an amazing show. Jim Henson had all kinds of different puppets, and then they would have a guest star that would kind of do it, and it was whoever. I think like Cher was on it and things like that.
Oh,
And,
every celebrity from the 70s and 80s was on the Muppet Show.
right, and it's amazing to watch them interact because you don't have to rehearse. They're literally
Yep.
just talking to each other like they're people, and that's the suspension of disbelief. And you don't realize how difficult it is too. I don't even remember what I watched. There was something where they were kind of talking about how you talk with puppets, and everyone's like, "Well, when I talk to someone, I face you directly, but with a puppet." Especially because the way that the camera is facing, you actually have to turn more towards it,
Mhm.
and the person that is actually moving the mouth is the one that is speaking. But when you're good at it, you're not. It is fully the puppet. And I don't know. There's just something magical about actual good puppetry. And I agree with you. It seems like we've kind of lost that.
This is the
Just
thing
watch.
that like puppeteers will tell you, particularly when it comes to kids. It's like
Oh
you
yeah.
don't need to worry about, oh, the kid knows it's a puppet. The kid doesn't care.
They don't care. Yeah.
The second the puppet comes out, the puppet is what matters. That's it. You disappear. You're gone. It doesn't matter. And there's a form of Japanese puppetry called bunraku
Oh,
that
I love the movie. There was a
I
movie
know.
called Boonraku as well, and I didn't have a clue, and I found that out, and it's gorgeous.
Yep, and it's a really, really beautiful form of puppetry. But one of the keys of bunraku is the puppeteers aren't hidden at all. They're
Yeah.
completely visible. They have these large, beautiful, intricate puppets that they manipulate. But that's kind of the point. The puppeteer is the person manipulating the character, but what happens is that character becomes alive.
Yep.
And the fact that you can see the puppeteer is immaterial. It's just, it doesn't matter because you believe in that character so much. And that is part of the acting of puppetry, right? That is the thing of it. So it just doesn't matter. The character is the point.
And yeah, I mean, I've done that with my kids' stuffed animals. Like they'll leave them downstairs and I'll come upstairs and I'll have them peek around the corner and be like, I'm here now. And they just get so excited because like, oh, dad's doing, you know, the thing. But to them, it is that, and they just talk to it. They don't look at me, right? And they have such an amazing ability to just automatically be creative and fall into that suspension of disbelief that I feel like in our teens, we all think we're just too cool to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And we lose that incredible sense of imagination.
There's a long history of connection between therapeutic puppetry and people on the autism spectrum on like a really, really extreme form of autism. And I have very strong firsthand experience of this. And there's a little anecdote if you'd like about how this goes. There is something about people on the spectrum, and there's some speculation, and I would kind of think this may be true, that a lot of people, I mean, there's a lot of neurodiverse people in puppetry in general. And it seems like there's a disproportionately large amount of people who are on the autism spectrum in puppetry and who are interested in puppets. And that kind of makes sense because the thing about puppet characters is there's a directness about it, right? We were talking about that. They're physically present. They're just there. And even in the way that your standard Muppet style design works, there is a kind of caricatureness in them, so that it is clear. It is immediately clear. As soon as you see a puppet character, you can get an idea of their personality. You know who that character is immediately. And that helps somebody who is neurodiverse with a kind of clarity of communication. When I was growing up, we had family friends who had a daughter who I don't know because I was a very small child at the time, so I don't know what exactly her diagnosis was, but she was practically nonverbal. She would say yes or no, but you couldn't have a conversation with her. She was very, very introverted. Well, I had this Kermit doll that I had transformed into a puppet because, of course, I did. And so when they would come over, I would just like, I don't know. I'm a little kid. I have no clue what anything is. So I just got out my puppets because that's what I did with my friends. We just, played puppets. So I got out Kermit. Now, of course, being a fan of the Muppets, I was very, very intent on getting Kermit right. That's important. Okay.
Yeah.
So I
everyone knows Kermit's voice, mannerisms.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I practiced and practiced and practiced. So of course, the next time when they came over and I had my Kermit, I took Kermit out and she lit up. It was unbelievable. She sat there and had whole conversations with Kermit.
That's beautiful.
Her parents were floored. She had never said this many words in a string before, ever. And we would just sit there and she would talk with Kermit and Kermit would talk with her, and she had a wonderful time. That's the power of it right there. There's an immediacy and a connection with that character. And again, I was clearly there. my head was up that frog, but it didn't matter because Kermit was just there. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about, or how it just bypasses that suspension of disbelief. It doesn't matter because the character's there.
And I think that, there have been others like attempts to kind of make puppets more adult, but there's something magical about something like Kermit, the innocence behind it, the message that he puts out, that we all know that, it doesn't matter what color you are, right? It doesn't matter to be green. Let's just be nice to each other. And there's that beauty behind Kermit that even as adults, we're like, yeah, let's all try to be a little bit more like Kermit.
Absolutely, I agree. And I have some feelings about, so there is a whole kind of subgenre in puppetry of adult puppetry. Avenue Q is part of this whole thing, and there was like the Happy Time Murders. There's a whole thing. I
Yeah.
know people who worked on that, so it's
Oh,
like
okay.
I know what to like diss it, but I personally don't really care for that style of stuff because there's an inherent cynicism in it that I think doesn't do it service. And to me, I mean, as a fan of comedy and somebody who takes comedy writing seriously, and I've studied the theory of comedy, the problem I really have with adult puppetry is that every joke just becomes the same joke, right?
Yeah.
It's all look, Kermit sniffing cocaine. Right.
Yeah. Right.
That's
Yeah.
the thing. It's all just that. It's all just this one stupid little shock value thing. And
Yeah.
it's like it becomes boring after the third joke because it's
Yeah.
just the same joke over and over again. It's like, okay, we get it. The puppets
Yeah.
having sex. Okay, yeah, haha. And
Right.
it's a humor that's reliant on a kind of rejection of innocence, right?
Yes, that's literally exactly what I was going to say, what I was thinking. Again, taking that
Yeah,
whole, he is so sweet, so innocent, being like, but what if he's not? It's like,
yeah.
okay,
It's
but
edge lord. That's what it is. Just edge lord, and it's like, grow up. Come on. And that's kind of the thing. It's like when you are actually mature, that stuff is just stupid. Now it's just
but
like
but again, like again, even with my kids, like I've thought about it before, like getting a puppet. So you make custom puppets, right?
I do.
Through your thing, and they're beautiful, and you do videos on how to make them. You teach people like, hey, you could do it like this, and anyone can ask you questions, which is great. I'm not that handy. I would love to get a puppet someday like that and use it with my kids, or create like a kids video about it, because as you said, like there's a way that they just connect with that
Mhm.
they won't connect with you. They feel safe and they feel innocent, and it's always so beautiful. But then to take that thing as a kid that we always liked, and I think that Farscape, because that's one of my favorite shows, and I keep coming to back to that. But like they
Understandable.
used puppets, but they are actual beings, right? They're not that one dimensional dick and fart joke style puppet. That's not what it's about. It is to
Yep.
create a universe of things, and they did it so well. But if you've never connected with a child and you've watched, and you want to, like, puppets, they just immediately attract to, and
Well, that's it.
having that kind of connection is amazing. I'm sorry, what was that?
It's the immediacy of it like we were talking
Yeah.
about. But the other side of it is I think there is something about and this probably goes for cartoon characters as well, but puppets are just kind of naturally like this. They are kind of a caricature. And in any caricature, what you're doing is you're taking specific qualities and emphasizing them,
Enhancing
right?
it, yeah.
So, and I can speak to this because every puppeteer who works for any length of time kind of develops signature characters. Jim Henson and Kermit is probably the best example
Miss
of that.
Miss Piggy being the
Miss
diva.
Piggy and Frank Oz. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
this is a standard thing, and it is just like actors becoming associated with a role.
Right.
Every actor who becomes associated with a role and who plays that role knows that the character they're embodying is just a little piece of their psyche, right?
Right.
I mean, every writer does this. Everyone who's played a tabletop role-playing game knows about creating a character. That character is always a little projection of you.
Right.
And so I've got a character that's like that. I got Frankie. Frankie
Yeah.
is one of my most played characters, which is ironic because that's not how I originally planned it. He's on the Oracle show. He's the producer. He's the guy behind the scenes running the cameras and all that stuff. And he's a troll. And Frankie was originally just kind of this grumpy guy, and the Oracle was supposed to be the star, and it just kind of developed over time that I ended up being able to play Frankie's just so naturally that
Right.
Frankie ended up kind of just being the central focus of the show. I still kind of feel bad about that. However,
But you have Frankie there.
oh, Frankie's here. Frankie's never far. This is the thing about Frankie. I kind of realized at one point, Frankie is just, if you were to break down my psyche into like a Freudian model, which I know is wrong, Freud's got problems.
We
But
all
like
do.
Frankie's basically the superego, right? Frankie is like
Yes.
he's the
Yeah.
thing that's watching over. I've just given my superego a name and a voice and a personification. But believe me, Frankie's never far. This is like a bit we set up because we did. Like, you're not going to have the puppet guy on and not have a puppet. Come on,
right?
All right, so
And
we got. I can't actually see my own camera. Hang on.
For our audio listeners, Frankie's walking into the room right now. So
they can hear me. Don't worry. They know. I got to talk into the mic here. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Frankie? So how did you get to where you're at today, Frankie?
Well, let's see. It starts 400 years ago when I was born. I'm a troll. I live a long time. How much time we got? Because it's gonna go on a long time, I tell you.
About 20 more minutes. You can talk, Frankie.
Oh.
You've seen a lot over 400 years.
Yeah, well, believe me. Here's the thing. I got one joke. You want my one joke?
Absolutely.
Okay, people want to know about my accent, right?
Yes.
The thing is, people think I'm from New York, and it's like, look, no. I did not get this accent from the humans. They got it from me. All right? This is how trolls talk, baby. Just deal with it.
All right, there we go. I think Frankie's got to go now.
And
Frankie's hot.
Yeah, I believe it. One of the most amazing things, though, and I've always wondered this because I've seen other people that play video games with puppets, and you've done that on PeerTube and Twitch. How do you do that when you're talking with one hand and you are playing a game with another? Like, that has to be impossible.
So I don't do it with. Sometimes I've occasionally had Frankie on the stream, but I'm doing it. I switch scenes. And I usually do Frankie with a VTuber avatar.
Right. Yes, you do. That's right.
Which is a whole other thing. I mean, I have maintained that, if Jim Henson were alive today, he'd be very interested in the whole VTuber phenomenon. I think that is an extension of puppetry.
Well, there's that what's the PBS kids show? Oh, Sid the Science Kid, where it looks uncanny. And that's because there actually are people that, like, it's a 3-dimensional puppet, but they have a full rig that they're doing with their hand, controlling it all, right? Or something like that. I
wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the things that Henson Studios is currently working on.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, again, there's something.
Part and parcel.
It just moves differently than any CGI thing, than any 2D art. It is completely, wholly different. And they can be married together, right? You can come up with these new art forms.
But there are people who do stream with puppet characters. I honestly have no idea how they do it. I've known a couple of people, and it's literally like industry secret. I'm sorry, I can't tell you. Some of them actually are a team where it's like one person's performing the puppet and another person's actually playing the game. And then the person who's performing the puppet is just kind of playing off of the whatever's happening on the screen and that kind of thing. But yeah, no, people do it. It's been done, and I'm in deep admiration.
Well, and that's even so how many puppets do you personally have? Which is your favorite?
Gosh, so I don't actually have that many because I don't have that much room. So when I make puppets, I gotta move them. I have very limited storage space.
It's like selling your children off. It's fine.
It kind of is. I mean, that's my rule, right? It's like I don't put anything up for sale that I wouldn't buy myself. So if I don't like it, it doesn't go up on the shop.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that means I have to keep selling all these puppets I really love. But hey, they go out of the world. There's YouTube channels who use my puppets. They're all over the place. Even I don't know all of the places my puppet. I literally just shipped one to Osaka a couple of weeks ago. Like I've shipped puppets all over the world. Anyway, I sounds like I'm bragging now.
That's what you're supposed to do on here.
But in terms of my favorite, man, that's a really tough one. The one that's really special, I think, of course, was my Kermit, because that's kind of a puppet builder's rite of passage, right? Every puppet builder has to make a Kermit. and I've now made 3. No, I don't sell them before anybody asks. Just settle down, Disney lawyers. Personal collection only.
Hey, if Disney is watching this, then we've all made it.
Yeah, Disney's in the Fediverse, I'm sure. Definitely not. Michael Eisner's going, "What's that? Can we make money off of it?" No. But yeah, no, my Kermit's real special because I literally studied for like a year. I did research. I looked at museum pieces. I took measurements.
That's amazing.
I studied. And because what I wanted with my Kermit was to be like, when you look at Kermit is so iconic. We all know, we all have this internal image of Kermit. When you look at a Kermit that isn't quite right,
you immediately,
right?
Yeah, you could like that. There's just something wrong. That is not Kermit. It's supposed to be Kermit, but that is not Kermit. Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that wouldn't happen with my Kermit. Yeah. So I worked for a very long time. I think the hardest puppet that I've ever made was my Kermit, even though Kermit, as in terms of construction, is actually quite simple.
But it's the detail, right? You want, again, I watched Mythbusters for years, and to watch these guys make replicas of things, they look at every little thing. They compare every size. If they can get their hands on a replica, makes their job easier, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be an easy process.
I literally spent half an hour placing pupils on Kermit, literally like a millimeter matters. It's so precise. And this is one of the difficult things with doing a replica versus a new build, is with a replica, you're trying to replicate something
that's been built before, what it looks like. Right? Yeah, it has to look exactly the same.
It's way different than doing like a new build where you're just kind of riffing and just seeing what happens. And that's really my preferred way of building. I just like to just make shit and see what comes out the other end, and we'll make this work, right? But yeah, I think probably Kermit's the most special one. Frankie and the Oracle, obviously. I mean, Frankie and the Oracle have lasted a surprising amount of time. They're both about 5 years old. The puppet you just saw was about 5 years old.
Frankie's looking good.
One minor repair. And it's not bad. He's been used pretty extensively. So,
sorry, go ahead.
No.
What is, if you can say, and I know that, with show law and stuff like that, you might not be able to say, what is your most famous puppet?
I had a pretty well-known ventriloquist, actually, Jack Williams, who commissioned me to make a puppet that he used on. So this is probably the one that's been seen by the most number of people.
Yeah,
He was a finalist for American Idol, I think. It's on. If you go to operationpuppet.com, there's a Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay.
There, Jack Williams is on that page. It's on the American Idol channel. He didn't end up being he was a finalist, but he didn't end up winning. But the very first puppet, the orange lizard that he uses there, that is one of mine. So that's probably the most notable one. The other one is by Sarah Berman, who performs Millie the Possum. I made Millie for Sarah. Sarah is also a very notable puppeteer. She's the main performer on Waffles and Moki on Netflix.
Yep.
The Michelle Obama show. Yep. She was the main performer for Waffles. She owns one of my puppets, and I'm very proud of that. So
that is awesome. So are there different styles? Because a lot of these, and I don't know if this is just how they all are. Again, going back to Farscape, like they are not the Muppets style puppets, but a lot of yours, with some exceptions, are that kind of rounded faced, kind of eyes popping out. Is that
ping pong ball style eyes? Yeah.
Yeah. Is that just your favorite style? Is that what people ask for? Is that just what you're comfortable with?
It is very much my favorite style, and it also is very people want that because, of course, it is a derivative of the Muppets.
Yes.
And it's actually derivative of a specific style from a designer who worked with the Muppets, whose name, of course, escapes me right now, despite being one of my favorite builders of all time. Don Saleen. There we go. It's in the database. Don Saleen was a designer who worked with Jim Henson in the early days, and he was responsible for a lot of the early Muppet designs. Bert and Ernie being a very good example of Don Celine stuff. And the thing I love about Don Celine was he's a minimalist, right? So he was always about taking the essence of a character and boiling it down to a very, very simple shape. And I really love that. So the stuff that I tend to gravitate towards does end up being like that because it is leaning into that minimalism. But things like First Farscape, for example, that's, you know, their latex skins, their complex mechs underneath that. They're very, very sophisticated types of puppets. I don't tend to do that kind of thing specifically because I'm generally selling to the general public. And the more complex a puppet and the more mechs you have in a puppet, the more things can break.
And you actually said that on one of your live streams. You were working on, I think, a new eyebrow mechanism, and
still working on it, baby.
And that's one of the things you don't think about. You think you just, you know, most people, at least for me, you shove your hand in it and you talk, but then you realize when I was talking to you, I was like, holy shit, their eyebrows move. And I never it's such a natural thing that you don't think that there's mechanics behind all of that. And every single one of those, you know, it matters. And
there's something in the head that I'm doing to make that happen. There's a little neck inside the head that causes the eyebrows to move.
There's a aspect of mechanical engineering built into these things.
Absolutely.
That blows my mind.
And of course, the more sophisticated it is, the more things can go wrong. And the thing with professional puppets is, on a TV or film set, you've got people who are literally, there's a job description called puppet wrangler. And their job is to, when something breaks, and I do mean when, their job is to fix it, and fix it quickly, because time is money. Right? So when you're selling to the general public like me, you can't do that. I have to think more like a toy maker than an actual professional puppet builder, because I have to make things very strong and robust and simple, right?
Yeah.
So the more mechs, the worse. The more things will break.
Have you ever thought about doing like a kids puppet show for like the Fediverse?
So, I mean, the Oracle is, you know, still running, and I do post it on PeerTube. So that's probably the closest thing to that. And the thing about the Oracle is, the puppet stuff that I do is all ages appropriate. The humor tends to be, the kids probably won't get a lot of the references because they tend to be satirical about, you know, like internet culture and stuff like that. But there's never any swearing. I want to feel like, you know, a parent can sit their kid down in front of the Oracle and they can just watch their funny puppet friends and it'll be fine. They won't have to worry about that. When I do podcasting and other stuff like that, that's a whole other thing. That's for adults. But yeah, that is probably the closest thing to something like that, and that does get posted on the PeerTube server.
Which, it's interesting because I had followed you, and I think this was I think the issue was you kind of changed domains at one point, right?
I changed the Owncast server, went away for a little while. I had to. It was literally like a budgetary thing. I had to cut down some of the domains I owned. And so one of the things I had to let go was, like, I had a specific domain for the Owncast server. Well, now I've shuffled the things around. I'm now using a subdomain for the Owncast server. And so the Owncast server is back. But of course, instead of, like, you can't just transfer the database over. You have to basically start again, right? So that's where we are. So the Pixels and Puppets Owncast server is where I do the live streaming. And that is both the puppet building live streams, and I also will do like game streaming and some tech stuff. And that's why it's called Pixels and Puppets. And Pixels and Puppets is kind of an umbrella, like a little offshoot from Operation Puppet. You got to get the puppet stuff in there because it's Pixels and Puppets, right? As a matter of fact, I have a little bit. I know we're getting up there on time.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
But I wanted to save something special for y'all, so I have an announcement.
Yeah.
Exclusively here on Fireside Fedi.
Oh, God, so I'm really nervous.
I mentioned before that I occasionally will do game streaming with the Frankie VTuber avatar.
Yeah.
I usually, when I live stream, I usually multi-stream out. I go to Twitch, I go to YouTube, I go to Owncast, I go to PeerTube.
Yeah.
from this point on, all of the Frankie plays will be Fediverse exclusive.
Yes.
If you want Frankie play, and believe me, you want Frankie play.
Yeah.
Because he's much funnier than I am. You definitely need to come to the Fediverse. That is, from now on, Frankie Play lives on the Fediverse and the Fediverse alone. So there we go. Fediverse exclusive.
That's great. I love
Frankie
that. Thank
Play.
you. And
My
to
pleasure.
put this out there real quick, at least from what I've seen, unless something changes, Frankie Play is not exactly child friendly.
No, well, no, Frankie Play.
It depends on the age.
Frankie doesn't swear.
He doesn't.
I can't ever imagine. Like, I cannot bring myself to swear if I'm in character as Frankie. And this is the thing. Like, Frankie, yeah. I think of Frankie as just like he's another character. He's just like another. It's not quite disassociative, but close enough that like Frankie is just the voice in my head. You know, we all have that little dialogue we have in our head. I've just personified it, but it's now Frankie. Whenever I do something stupid, and I know I've done something stupid, it's Frankie who's going, you know, that was really stupid. Don't do that. But I cannot even picture swearing with Frankie. It goes against all of my instincts. Absolutely. But
what was the game that Frankie was playing? It's
I've done a lot of Warframe.
Not Destiny, Warframe, right? So it's for the parents out there, like, you don't get really dirty or anything like that, but make sure that the game that you are playing is age appropriate. I used to sit my kids down in front of it, a Twitch streamer. She's absolutely beautiful and wonderful and sweet and everything. And she loved, when I would say, hey, my kids are watching you, she'd get excited. And the one time I sat them down in front of her and she was, playing some like horror game. And I'm like, oh shit, like hurry up and change that. So, and I have a 5-year-old and like Warframe, my 8-year-old is getting close to that age, but So it's fun, especially to see like Frankie interacting. Yeah. But make sure that you're okay with what this child is watching.
No, absolutely. And it's please do the age appropriate research on the game.
Yes.
Well. You can rest assured that Frankie isn't going to be the problem, but the game might be a problem. And I got no control over that. But wow, I had a point and it's totally gone.
Oh,
okay,
I'm sorry.
Never mind. That's all right.
So you announced Frankie's going to be exclusive gaming.
Exclusive to the Fediverse. Yep.
To the Fediverse. Okay, awesome. And actually, interesting.
Own cast and PeerTube.
Right. And I've been working on because you can self-host your own indexes, who you follow, and where you can search. And I've been working on specific indexes because of the company I'm starting, BT Free. I want people to have like, if it's let's say, and I don't know if this will ever take off, but if for some reason schools, right, get PeerTube in, you can't have misinformation. You can't have certain adult content on there. So it's like, what if we have a child-friendly index and then just follow this and it pulls it all in, and that'd be perfect for that. And that'd be perfect for I'm definitely taking a look at so it's puppet.zone is where your
puppet.zone is the PeerTube server. Yep.
Right. And the Oracle's on there. And all of the links are going to be in the video description or the audio description. And operationpuppet.com has links to all of that as well.
Yep. And you'll notice that on operationpuppet.com, the Fediverse stuff is at the very top because that's the stuff I want people to go to.
Right. Yeah. I've started telling people, like, you don't have to force anyone there. Let's just start getting like links to things, because every single little one is like, oh, I wonder what that, the little blue M is and the 3 triangles. Like, let's start putting those seeds in there. And it's for everyone. Like, what actually even brought you to the Fediverse to bring Frankie and friends?
Well, probably a similar story to what you've heard a lot in that, when the Elon bomb dropped, I'd been on, every corporate platform you can imagine. I always hated it, of course, but I kind of liked Twitter more or less for what Twitter was, and then Elon happened. And so during the first great Twitter migration, this was when Mastodon and therefore the Fediverse came into my awareness. And it's like, oh, wait, this is like the internet before it got bad. I remembered that. That was great. People would just make stuff and talk to each other, and it was really nice. And
it was a weird, wonderful place.
Well, that's it. And that's kind of where we're at. This is one of the things that I love about the Fediverse is like, okay, yes, it's got problems. It ain't perfect, but neither are humans. It's imperfect in the same way that humans are imperfect, right? So
yeah,
that's the point. It's not controlled by any corporate entity. And I'm unfortunately still have to have a presence in some corporate social media just because I got a business to run. And that's where most most of my clients, and particularly my repeat clients, they're not on Mastodon, like they're on Instagram, right? So believe me, I'm trying. If I could completely leave corporate socials, I would. In a second, in a heartbeat. But unfortunately, I'm just not in that position right now financially. But who knows what the future holds?
So that leads to like my last question is, what does success look like for you then? Is it just, leaving that? Is it that you can get to a point where you can make whatever puppet you want and people just buy? Like, the sky's the limit, as big or as small as you want it? How does Kevin Blade say, I've made it? Like, at what point are you like, life is perfect?
That's a very good question. A big question too. So let's see. I would like, I kind of would like to have more of an audience so I could just make more things. I would like to bring more people on. I would like Operation Puppet to be more than just me. That is kind of where I'm at with that. But I love performing more than I'm able to, just because I have to keep making the puppets to keep the money happening, to keep paying the rent, kind of thing. So I would love to bring more people on. I would love to take on an apprentice, for example, and train somebody in puppet building, which is kind of the thing I'm doing with the build streams. But I would like to be able to pay somebody to do that, for example. So again, it's really about sustainability, not really growth.
Okay.
Yeah. And as long as I can, I like what I do. That is the big kind of success story here is, I can barely afford to pay rent, but I like what I do. I don't hate my job anymore. Yeah. Can you even imagine such a world? I'm living in it. And so it's okay that I don't have a lot of money because I'm happy. And that's kind of...
Wait,
right?
Are you suggesting that money isn't buying you happiness? Because I'm pretty sure that I know a couple of billionaires.
Is the problem.
But it's interesting because not a single person I've talked to, it's like, I want to be the richest man in the world. It's like, none of us want to. We just want a place we can exist and do our thing, man.
Look how happy Elon is. I mean, why wouldn't you want that?
All right. Well, now for the real reason I asked Kevin here is to give him the opportunity to win the prize of a lifetime.
Oh, no.
Our prize today is Animal from the Muppets, his hairbrush. Because, that's got to be a well-used thing.
You think he brushes his hair? That's
optimistic. I thought about getting you a date with Miss Piggy, but we were too afraid to even approach her. So
I don't think I'd live through that.
You ready for the quiz?
All right.
Okay. Me. Favorite movie and why is it Spaceballs?
Wow. Okay. Deep confession. I've never seen Spaceballs.
All right. End of the stream. Goodbye, all.
Whoa. I love Mel Brooks. Don't get me wrong. I will quote Young Frankenstein at you until you tell me to go home. But I don't know. Star Wars is near and dear to my heart, and there's just something about I just can't. I just can't.
It's interesting because I'll make a confession as well. I love Mel Brooks. I just can't watch Young Frankenstein.
Really? Oh wow!
Its humor is just a bit dry for me. I recently, one of my friends, I made him watch Spaceballs with me, and I was like, "How did you like it?" He's like, "It's silly," and I was like, "I know, don't you love it?" He's like, "No, it's silly. Like it's just silly," and I was like, "That's why I love it." But so I totally get it.
It's the silly versus dry divide.
Yeah. Excuse me, and Gene Wilder, absolute treasure.
I mean, come on.
He's amazing.
If you ever want to feel good about life, there's a film called The Frisco Kid, Gene Wilder and a very young Harrison Ford. Gene plays a rabbi who's traveling across early America, and
I've not seen that.
Harrison Ford plays a bank robber, and they end up meeting. It is one of the most wonderful, heart-filled, feel-good movies I've ever seen. It is one of my comfort movies. The Frisco Kid, Gene Wilder at his best.
Okay. So, favorite movie then? What was your favorite movie?
Well, Star Wars is the easy answer. But...
even post Disney. Yeah.
You know, I mean, favorite Star Wars movie may in fact be The Last Jedi. Ooh, there's a confrontational.
God, I wish you would have asked this first so that we could have ended early. It wasn't bad. It's not to me. It is not the Star Wars I grew up on. But let's be honest, it's not meant to.
I kind of loved it because of that, right? I loved it because it was a deconstruction of Star Wars. It was challenging the expectations. Yeah, exactly.
There's no turning back from the dark side. He turns back from the dark side. It's like
but no. It's like you're pardoning the people from June 6th. Anyway. Which turns out to be real. Anyway, Labyrinth. Let's go with you know what? Dark Crystal. Let's go with Dark Crystal.
Labyrinth is one of my favorite movies.
Because it's Bowie. Look at me, I'm an old goth. I gotta love Bowie. I mean,
who doesn't love Bowie in tight pants that's showing off everything? Yeah. The Dark Crystal is. Did you watch the sequel series?
Oh yes.
Did you like it? I couldn't get into it.
I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. And of course Netflix killed it. So
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's I think that's kind of why I didn't want to get into it too much, is because it was good, but I just
some of the best puppeteering I have ever seen is on the Age of Resistance.
And that was one of again, there's just something you can't do with CGI, and it's tangible and it's beautiful that way. And it looks a bit weird, but it's supposed to. It's a completely alien thing, right? It was great.
You can believe in something like the Dark Crystal in a way that you can't believe in Avatar, right?
Yes.
It's because it's just there.
Dark Crystal is one of those two where I started my wife and I want to put on the Dark Crystal so we could rewatch it with the kids. And I watched it and I was like,
maybe not.
Holy shit. It's a kid's movie, but that is dark. And those puppets are so alive. That would scare the shit out of any child.
In the 80s, man? The dark fantasy stuff in the 80s?
I saw it. Yeah, in the 80s. As a kid, right around the age
this happened. Come on.
Right. Next question. Elmo, Punch and Judy, or Zaboomafoo?
Punch and Judy.
Okay.
Just because of there's no more classic, in the history of puppetry. Right. I love history. I love archaeology. And if you're talking about the history of puppetry, there's Punch and Judy, there's Bill Baird, and then there's Jim Henson. That's it. Those are the touchstones. Those are the big things. So it's gotta be Punch and Judy. Even though it's really, really not aged well.
I don't even I was not around for it. I've seen clips and I was just like,
it's violent. It's extremely
it's one of those things where it's you have to accept for the time frame that it was in.
It's also part of the commedia dell'arte tradition, so there's a whole lot of kind of archetypal characters in there. There's a lot. There's, like, what's in Punch and Judy, you could make a tarot deck off of like just what's in Punch and Judy. Like, it is a very deep well, and as a result, problematic.
Yeah. Next question is foam, flowers, or feathers?
Foam.
I thought that was going to be like, I was.
Give me a challenge. Come on.
Right. Okay. How about this one? What does an alternate universe Kevin do?
Marketing.
He does
I
marketing.
hate that bastard.
So, I mean, there's infinite alternate universes, but I use my special alternate universe phone here. It works amazingly. Don't ask how it works. It's very scientific and technical. And so I reached out to an alternate universe Kevin, and you'll be happy to know he's actually a puppeteer. However, he never actually learned how to make puppets, so he just runs up behind strangers, puts his hand on their neck, and starts talking as if they were. He's at least the bright side is he's learned how to defend himself very well. So
he's better. Jeez. Also get bail money. Holy crap.
Next question is, if you're having vanilla ice cream, okay, so you're having vanilla ice cream. I like vanilla. It goes with everything.
I love vanilla. Vanilla's the best.
Gummy bears, Reese's Pieces, or just more vanilla ice cream?
So I'm diabetic.
So this is a perfect question. This is a perfect question. I'm so happy. I was talking to you earlier about that time. Like, I'm always nervous because I'm always afraid I'm going to ask the wrong question. It's come, and it's too late now. Let's go. Plow ahead.
You know what? There's diabetic friendly ice cream. Therefore, more ice cream.
And when is that the wrong answer though? Right? Never.
Easy.
And finally, our last question, as usual, will be sent to you telepathically. I will send the question. I will let you know when it gets there, even though you'll know that it gets there because we're telepathic, but it is for the audio listeners to know that I've given it to you. And then you just give me your answer. You don't have to rephrase the question. Just give me the answer. You ready?
All right.
Okay, here it comes. Okay, that was a really long one. So let me know.
Jellied parsnips.
Ooh, I was not expecting that based on that question. That's wow.
I mean, what else is it?
That's fair.
What else could it possibly be? It's the only possible answer.
Congratulations, you got every answer either correct or incorrect. Good job.
What are the odds?
So I have some bad news. Unfortunately, our community member Mousy was attempting to get Animal's hairbrush for you. It's, matted and stuck in his hair. And Mousy couldn't tell the difference between the brush and Animal himself, and was taking too long, and Animal turned around and actually ate Mousy. So while we work on getting Mousy back,
had to happen.
The brush is gone, and if and when we get Mousy back,
Mousy back.
We'll make sure to punish Mousy accordingly, as if getting beaten by Animal isn't punishment enough. So they did lose your prize, so I apologize for that.
That's okay. I didn't really want it.
That's all the time we have, though. Or that's all we have. There's really no time limit on this, but that's all I have today. So thank you so much, Kevin. This has been an absolute
joy. Pleasure.
And it's an absolute joy, watching your stuff and seeing a side of something that as a kid, we all love and we just never thought about too much. So please keep up the entertaining work that you do. Everyone go check out Operation Puppet, Pixels and Puppets, or The Oracle on puppet.zone. It's fun. It's just fun. And it's so enlightening and educational too when you're building those puppets. And I'll say this, Kevin doesn't have to do the showing of making puppets, and I think at one point he even said it takes significantly longer to make a puppet on stream because he wants to make sure that people understand it. He answers every single question that people have, which is it's amazing and honorable, and one of the reasons why I absolutely love the Fediverse. So thank you so
This
much.
is the thing about it, right? Like we want to share stuff. That's why we're on the Fediverse. That's the point.
Yep. And thank you to all of the Fedisons out there. I'm grateful to all of you, and I absolutely love speaking to everyone. Everyone stay safe. Don't forget to tip your admins, your software developers. That's
Please
what makes this possible. This only works because we support each other. Each of us has our limitations, but together we can do anything. So thank you guys very much. Have a great one. Catch you next time.
Cheers.